Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ever had one of those days where everything just clicked into place? Or maybe the opposite, where things completely fell apart because of, well, what seemed like a tiny oversight?
Happens all the time. And often it's not the big dramatic failures we imagine.
Exactly. It's more like a cascade, isn't it? Tiny human missteps adding up.
Precisely. Which leads us perfectly into our topic today.
We're diving into a world where precision isn't just preferred, it's absolutely paramount. Where the consequences, well, they're immediate and can be catastrophic.
We're talking about commercial aviation.
And we're going to kick off with a quote that's both fascinating and maybe a little unsettling. To err is human, but to mess up things, you need to put them in an aircraft.
Yeah, that anonymous gem really sets the stage, doesn't it? Our deep dive today is all about threat and error management TEM, for short in commercial aviation.
And our guide through this is the work of Captain Ashutosh Chopra. His insights form the backbone of this.
Absolutely. And while Captain Chopra is obviously focused on pilots, in the cockpit, our mission here, as always, is to kind of extract the vital knowledge from this material.
Right. And show you how these incredibly rigorous principles from aviation offer some really profound, maybe unexpected lessons for your own life.
Yeah, think about it. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, learning a new skill, navigating a complex project,
or even just managing the everyday chaos life throws at you.
These concepts, anticipating issues, making informed decisions, achieving your goals safely and effectively, they're universal.
It's about understanding how experts in these really high-stakes environments manage to prevent disaster, and how those same frameworks can help you navigate challenges, whatever your complex environment looks like.
So let's unpack this fundamental challenge at the heart of it all, which is the human factor in this incredibly high-tech world we live in.
It's such a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
You picture modern aviation, and you immediately think of these just incredibly advanced machines.
Oh, totally. Highly reliable engines, pinpoint GPS navigation, sophisticated automation, redundancies built upon redundancy.
The level of safety engineered into flying operations is it's unprecedented.
It really is. The technology is phenomenal. But, and this is the crucial counterpoint Captain Chopra makes, despite all that tech, the flying environment remains, in his words, very unforgiving.
Unforgiving, even with all those safety nets.
Yeah.
What makes it so unforgiving? Is it the speed? The altitude?
It's all of that. It's the physics, the speed, the third dimension. There's just very little margin for error. A small mistake can escalate incredibly quickly.
And that's where we come in, the humans.
Exactly. Because for all the incredible engineering, the source material is crystal clear. It is us, humans, who introduce the vast majority of problems into the system.
So we're the weakest link, in a way.
In a very real sense, yes. We're the ones capable of making errors, even when the machine is perfect. It's us humans that make errors.
Okay, so if you're the weakest link, and the environment is unforgiving, how do pilots actually handle this day in, day out? The source highlights a really key distinction, doesn't it, between threats and errors.
That's the core framework, TEM. Threat and error management. Let's break that down. Think of threats first. These are external conditions or events, things that have the potential to negatively affect safety.
Like bad weather. Or flying near mountains.
Exactly. Inclement weather, terrain proximity, maybe air traffic congestion, even things like crew fatigue. These are just part of the operating environment. They're always there, potentially.
So you can't eliminate threats entirely?
No, you can't eliminate them. You have to be aware of them, anticipate them, and manage them. That's the key. Manage.
Okay. So that's threats. External factors. What about errors?
Errors are different. Errors are the mistakes we make, humans, either through an action like misinterpreting an air traffic control instruction or a direct piloting mistake.
Or through inaction.
Right. Forgetting a checklist item, not speaking up when something feels wrong, that's an error of omission or inaction.
And what's really crucial, as the source points out, is that errors can happen even when there are no obvious external threats, right?
Absolutely. You can have a perfectly clear day, smoke air, no traffic, and still make an error because, well, to err is human.
And the stakes, if you fail to manage either threats or errors, they're incredibly high. Captain Chopra says it can lead to reduced margins of safety at best.
It may even lead to catastrophic accidents. It's this constant, vigilant balancing act. You have to manage the threats to prevent errors and manage errors to prevent disastrous outcomes.
Okay, so that naturally leads us to the how. How do you manage threats? It seems like anticipation and vigilance are key.
That's the starting point. Awareness is everything. Just being aware of existing threats lets you be vigilant and take preemptive action.
Okay, give us an example. Captain Chopra talks about landing on a wet runway.
Right. Simple scenario. You're aware it rained earlier at the airfield. That wet runway, that's a threat. Reduced braking action, risk of skidding.
So, knowing that threat exists, what does a pilot do?
Well, you take specific actions before you even encounter the problem. You might select a higher auto brake setting for landing, ensure you slow down sufficiently before attempting to turn off the runway. Be really careful with steering inputs.
Right, makes sense. Preventing a skid.
It sounds like basic common sense, doesn't it? But here's the interesting bit. The food for thought, as the source puts it. Incidents of aircraft skidding off wet runways, they don't seem to be decreasing over time.
Huh. What do you think that is? If the threat is obvious and the solutions are known.
It suggests that maybe sometimes we see the threat, but we don't fully grasp its significance. Or we get complacent, or maybe we just ignore it, hoping for the best.
That really hits home for everyday life too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How often do you see the metaphorical storm clouds gathering a looming deadline, a difficult conversation needed, some tension building, but you just kind of plow ahead? Instead of adjusting your auto brake, so to speak, maybe asking, what small thing could derail this?
It's like building that pre-mortem habit. The wet runway isn't just outside. It could be your own fatigue before a critical meeting, right? Or that unread email with crucial context you skipped.
Good point. What about other threats? The source mentions mountain waves.
Yeah, another great example. Flying near mountains, especially in winter, you have the threat of mountain waves, strong winds, creating potentially severe turbulence downwind of the peaks.
So awareness means?
Awareness means you make a conscious decision. Stay upwind of the terrain, avoid the danger zone. Again, awareness of the threat leads to an informed, preemptive decision. Foresight.
Okay, but what if you don't know about a threat beforehand? What about the surprises?
Good question. The source says even if a threat isn't known in advance, recognizing its very first sign is absolutely crucial for taking anticipatory action.
Like picking up on a subtle clue.
Exactly. Imagine you're on approach, listening to air traffic control. You hear the call sign of the plane ahead, and it has the suffix heavy or super.
Meaning it's a big aircraft.
Right. That single word is a subtle indication. It immediately triggers alertness for large wake vortices, those invisible, powerful swirls of air they leave behind.
Which can be dangerous for smaller planes following too closely.
Very dangerous. So, hearing heavy, you might proactively ask ATC for a bit more separation. You weren't explicitly warned about wake turbulence, but you picked up the clue, recognized the potential threat, and acted.
It's like noticing a tiny flicker on your car's dashboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
You investigate before it becomes a major breakdown.
Precisely. And then there are the latent threats, the hidden ones.
Hidden? Like what?
Things you simply can't know beforehand. Captain Chopra gives the example of an intoxicated passenger who suddenly becomes disruptive mid-flight. There's no warning sign for that on departure.
So how do you prepare for something you can't predict?
The key is proactive mental preparation, visualizing potential scenarios. Captain Chopra actually suggests doing this peacefully at home, brainstorming contingencies. What could go wrong? How would I handle it?
Building mental models, like a playbook for the unexpected.
Exactly. It builds resilience and allows for faster, safer responses when something unforeseen does happen. It increases your safety margins, even for the unknown.
But sometimes it's not just one threat, is it? The source talks about a dangerous cocktail of threats.
Ah, yes. That's when things get really insidious. Multiple, maybe subtle threats conspiring together.
The source paints a picture. A late-night flight, crew's already tired.
Okay, threat 1, fatigue.
The flight's delayed, so there's maybe some pressure, real or perceived, to hurry up.
Threat 2, schedule pressure. Maybe threat 3, commercial pressure.
And because everyone's tired and rushing, an important item on a pre-flight checklist gets missed, which causes problems later in the flight.
See? Late night, fatigue, pressure. It's a combination. Each one might be manageable on its own, but together.
They create a trap.
Exactly. This is why Captain Chopra stresses that a pilot's mind must be suspicious of the environment. You need to develop this ability to connect the dots, to piece together seemingly disjointed bits of information.
To build that bigger picture and spot the lurking threats.
Because if threats go unrecognized, they inevitably lead to errors, and errors can lead to hazardous conditions.
Like the example of not controlling a high rate of climb properly when the aircraft is light. That's an error of inaction, right?
Correct, an omission. And that error can directly result in a TCS resolution advisory that's the automated collision avoidance system shouting instructions.
So an error of inaction puts you in a highly reactive, dangerous spot where you need split-second reactions to avoid disaster.
Precisely. Which brings us neatly to confronting the errors themselves, recovery, and ideally, prevention.
Okay, so we know errors can be action or inaction. The source gives a good example with the missed approach brief, doesn't it?
It does. Imagine you're briefing for a potential missed approach. That's when you have to abort the landing. Let's say there's a dangerous area, like high ground, immediately to the right of the runway track after takeoff.
So the procedure says you must turn left or fly straight ahead, but definitely not right.
Right. Now, if during the briefing you fail to mention or emphasize that do not deviate right restriction, that's an error of inaction, an omission in the brief.
And then if you actually do have to perform a missed approach later, under pressure,
maybe disoriented, the pilot flying might instinctively turn right towards the danger they forgot about. That's an error of action, directly resulting from the earlier error of inaction.
Wow, okay. That clearly links the two. What about another error of action, persisting with a bad approach?
Classic example. You're coming into land, but maybe you're too high or too fast. The approach is unstable. That's an error state.
So the correct action is?
The correct action, the managed error, is to recognize you're unstable and execute a go-around. Fly away, come back for another try.
But the error of action is continuing anyway.
Right. Pushing on, hoping to salvage it, persisting with the unstable approach, that often leads to landing long, maybe running off the end of the runway. That's the error not being resolved, leading to a hazardous outcome.
So the key difference is catching it versus letting it spiral.
Absolutely. Which means the speed of detecting an error is paramount. Recognizing it quickly and taking recovery action, that's often the difference between staying safe and having an incident.
And that speed comes down to?
The source links it directly to good SA situational awareness and just diligent monitoring, verification, cross-checking everything on the flight deck, being alert.
But errors will happen. We've established that. We are humans.
We are, but their frequency can be reduced significantly.
How?
Through things like rigid adherence to standard operating procedures, SOPs, developing good habits, maintaining high levels of discipline, and, of course, having strong fundamental flying skills.
So these things make errors less likely, and maybe easier to catch when they do happen.
Exactly. They create a more error-resistant system and a more error-tolerant one when mistakes inevitably occur.
Okay, which I guess leads us to the ultimate goal, the gold standard, as Captain Chopra calls it, avoiding the dangerous situations altogether.
Yes. This is where it gets really interesting, especially thinking about how you can apply this. It reminds me of that fantastic quote from astronaut Frank Borman.
Oh, the one about superior pilots.
That's the one. A superior pilot uses his superior judgment to avoid situations that would require his superior skills.
I love that. It's profound, isn't it? Prevention is better than cure. Or in this case, prevention is better than needing heroic recovery skills.
Precisely. Why manage the mess if you could have just avoided making it in the first place?
So how do you cultivate that superior judgment? The source says it comes down to high situational awareness, or SA.
Right. High SA is the foundation, and it's built on a few key pillars. First, preparation and visualization.
We touched on that with latent threats, thinking ahead.
Exactly. Good pre-flight prep, mentally walking through the flight, anticipating potential threats that allows you to spot them early if they appear. It's like mentally rehearsing that tough conversation before you walk into the room.
Okay, what's the second pillar?
Cognitive freedom. Your conscious mind needs to be available for higher level thinking, for observing, for anticipating.
Meaning you're not totally swamped just trying to fly the plane.
Pretty much. If a pilot is struggling with basic aircraft handling or doesn't understand the automation properly, all their mental bandwidth is consumed by that. There's nothing left over to, as the source puts it, sit back and observe the environment in a detached and suspicious manner.
So deep knowledge, automation proficiency, strong manual flying skills, they aren't just about control. They free up your mind to think.
Exactly. To see the bigger picture, not just the immediate task.
And this essay, it can't just be one person's awareness, can it? In a cockpit, there are two pilots.
Crucial point, it has to be shared essay. Common understanding between both pilots, and that is achieved primarily through good communication.
Which brings in crew resource management, or CRM.
Yep. CRM skills are vital. Good communication, effective time management, knowing how to prioritize tasks, sharing the workload efficiently. All of these help build and maintain that shared SA over the entire flight. When you're both on the same page, mentally free, and communicating well, you're much better equipped to spot and handle threats and errors.
Okay, so prep, cognitive freedom, shared SA through CRM. What else?
Finally, underpinning all of this as a sort of safety net is that disciplined adherence to the standard operating procedures, the SOPs, and developing good, consistent flight deck habits.
These create that fail-safe environment the source mentions.
They do. They provide structure and known procedures, especially under pressure. And Captain Chopra introduces this broader concept of airmanship.
Airmanship. What does that encompass?
It's described as the practice of consistently asking yourself two questions. What will be the safety net for your action? And how will you ensure that the action you take will be fail-safe?
So it's a mindset. Always thinking about backup plans, about consequences, about building in margins.
Exactly. It's proactive risk management woven into every decision. Like a great chef who doesn't just cook, but constantly thinks, what if the power goes out? What's my plan B? They build redundancy into their process, not just their equipment.
So pilots with good airmanship are naturally better at threat and error management because they're constantly operating with this what-if and fail-safe mentality.
That's the idea. They excel because they're always thinking steps ahead, building in those layers of protection.
Wow. Okay, that brings us towards the end of this really fascinating deep dive into threat and error management drawn from the aviation world.
And hopefully we've shown how these incredibly rigorous principles aren't just for pilots. They're surprisingly universally applicable to your life.
Absolutely. We've talked about anticipating issues before they snowball, recovering quickly from missteps because they will happen, and proactively creating these fail-safe approaches, whatever you're doing.
These are blueprints for navigating complexity, making better decisions, especially when the stakes feel high, even in your everyday world.
So, to wrap up, here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over.
Think about a complex project you're working on, or maybe a crucial conversation you need to have, or even just a challenging daily routine.
Where could adopting that suspicious mind Captain Chopra talks about, that constant low-level awareness of potential threats, change how you approach it?
Or asking that airmanship question. What will be the safety net for my action? How could that help you navigate challenges with, well, greater judgment?
And maybe avoid those situations that would otherwise demand your superior skills. Something to think about.